like this like unsaid bar that you have to reach, and then if you don't, like it's like.
And at some point, I was just like, wait, this is actually holding me back. Like, I am trying to be perfect in so many ways that I'm scared to try things.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Richa. Welcome to season 2 of Brown Girl Unscripted. I'm your host Richa Dave and also the CEO of Ashni Studio. Today's guest is Ashni Mehta.
Hi, y'all. Nice to be here.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. Ashni, you want to tell our audience a little bit more about what you do and what's going on in your life right now?
Yes. So I run a marketing agency. It's called 4am Creative. It's a creative studio, and we work with a lot of small brands, creators. So we do talent management. I work with a lot of nonprofits because I used to work full-time in advocacy for about a decade. And we also work with brands across the world. So I help brands from India launch in the US, and I help the brands locally here and bring them over to Bombay, New Delhi, and across India, since I am lucky enough to live in both. And that's been so exciting. And then I'm also a content creator and fashion influencer, in my free time when I have. So.
Oh my god, I love that. You're so multifaceted. I know, like, doing all of that all together, you must have a hectic schedule.
Yes, there is never a boring day, that is for sure.
Yeah. No, I love that. So on this podcast, we tell our audience all about ways to feel sexier inside and out. And when it comes to taboo topics, especially being a South Asian woman, of course, the podcast is for everyone and anyone. But I'm a brown girl, you're a brown girl, so I think our audience would love it if you could talk a little bit more about like what it was like to kind of leave that career of. Did you leave the career, or like how did that go in terms of like making that transition?
Yeah, so I actually do still work in advocacy. I have a lot of clients that are nonprofits.
Okay.
Part of the reason that I left was I was experiencing burnout after the 2020 election. And during that time when we were in lockdown, I was working, like 16 to 20 hours a day, both with the election and switching over to vote by mail during COVID, and also doing work around Black Lives Matter and after George Floyd's death. It was just such a hard time.
Yeah.
So I want to take a little bit of a step back. My first few clients for my agency were actually all nonprofits, and all former colleagues of mine that had moved to different nonprofits and wanted me to consult for them digitally. So I remain really active in this space, but just through my agency now. So it's been a really amazing transition to be able to like continue that part of my life.
I love that. What would you say was the biggest thing that kind of helped you in making that jump and prioritizing like, hey, I'm feeling burnt out? Because I think a lot of people, especially like within our community and just otherwise, it's like so easy to feel like you just need to push past the burnout and not even maybe recognize like, hey, I'm burnt out, you know?
Yeah, I think honestly, I've been the type of person that always wants to reimagine what society has told us life needs to look like. And at some point, I was like, wait, why do I need to like retire to take a break? Like, why
Yeah.
aren't there built-in breaks for us? And I looked at our structure as a society, and I was like, you know what? Like, it's not actually beneficial to anyone but me to take breaks. So if I want to take it, if I want to explore and do this while I'm young and like make this something sustainable, then I need to figure it out and like rethink how I see things. So I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I want to take a break for a couple of years, figure out how to build a company that can maybe work partially passively without me. So I've been building a team. And then when I'm ready to come back to it, I can always come back and work full time. And then it's sustainable. I can work, for 3 to 5 years and then take another 2-year break, and really kind of build accordingly so that it's a part of my life to not just like work endlessly every day, day in and day out, but like this is the sabbatical that I give myself.
Yeah. And what was the thing that kind of like in your experience helped you out in, I guess, just like tuning out the noise that may have come from making a decision that isn't the most popular, you know? Like, I think that this is great. You built something amazing for yourself, but like so many people would feel so skeptical towards that. So, what helped you out and just being like, nah, like, you know what, like, screw it. Like, this works for me. This is what I want. And yeah.
I think I've just been lucky to talk to so many different people across the world. And what I've seen is there are so many people that have done everything by the books, and they often end up unhappy too. And I'm not saying there are not people that are happy in this situations, but I think the most important thing you can do is stay true to who you are and yourself and what you need at the time. And that doesn't mean to ignore the future. You can both plan for the future, build an emotionally and financially secure life for yourself while taking some risks. And I think it's always about really striking that balance.
No, and honestly, I think that like a big part of everything you said is like doing this like while you're young and like figuring things out. So I feel like, at least in my opinion, I think that so much of like that discovery and career and all that happens when you're young. And like then after a certain point, not that you can't pivot, but it becomes a little bit harder to if you have more responsibility on your hands. I mean, just based on the way you're talking about it, you seem like super excited and inspired about it. So I love to see that. And the next question I have is kind of along the lines of like you talk to these people, you've seen that people have done it all. What kind of helped you see like the advice or tips that like, because there's so many tips out there, right? Like even if I just Google right now or on YouTube, like how to do this, how to build a marketing agency, how to do that. There's so many different things. There's so many ways to do it. For you, like how did you figure out what works for you and like based on what works for your working habits and your productivity? I know that's a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. You can Google and find so many people saying so many different things to you.
Yeah.
First of all, I think always look for the people that have followed a similar path. Maybe they started where you are, or maybe they're ending where you want to end up. Or maybe there's some specific challenge that they face that you relate to, but finding someone that actually whose journey kind of mirrors yours or whose journey you can follow is really important. There are so many people doing amazing things, but I'm like, I don't have the resources they do, so their advice just isn't going to apply to me. I'm not looking for the types of clients they're looking for, so maybe their advice won't apply to me. So I think really finding and honing in on getting advice from the right people is so important. The other thing I really focus on is what are my strengths and what do I do that other people can't, or what do my friends or my current clients come to me for advice for.
Yeah.
So really, really knowing what your strengths are and what you can do better than the 10 of your competitors, I think is the biggest thing. That is what's going to set you apart. That's what's going to keep people coming back to you. So really having a strong understanding of yourself, that self-awareness of like, I can do this, and then just really perfecting that specific craft. And then I think also with advice, the best thing I can tell you is to trust your gut. Like I have known in my body when one opportunity or something is not right for me, and sometimes I want to hold on because it seems perfect on paper, but every single time something didn't go well, I knew it ahead of time. And my commitment to myself moving forward is that I'm going to listen to myself and trust my instincts and, like cut my losses when the time is right before it hurts more than it needs to.
I love that. And I think it's important to listen to your like gut, especially when it comes, like you said, career decisions. Like I've had moments like that too, where like I like ignored it, and then after like shit, like this is what was happening, and then like it makes sense why like it didn't like work per se.
One of the best pieces of advice I read recently is every time you ignore your gut instinct, it gets more and more expensive. And that means in personal relationships, that means in professional relationships. It's across the board. Every time I have ignored my gut instinct, I know that it has cost me something. And every time I do it now, the cost is higher and higher. And so I think that like the one thing I'm really going to focus on this year is just trusting myself.
Yeah, I would love to like learn more about like what it was like for you just on a more personal journey basis, like starting this out and just in general. Like I know for me in my business journey, like I've had a lot of perfectionism, and you've been at it like so much longer than I have. So like you've been through it a lot more in certain capacities. So tell me more about like what that was like for you. Is that something that you did deal with? And like how did you get to a point where you said like you're working on trusting yourself more? You like are doing that more so now. Like how did you get to that point?
Yeah, so I think you brought up a lot of things, and one of them is perfectionism. And for me, perfectionism is a lifelong struggle. I think especially for anyone in a South Asian household who knew what it was like when your parents asked you where the last 3 points were when you got a 97. Like that perfectionism is so innate, right? Like, so but
not the pause. You're
not
just
the
like,
like
the pause.
trauma. I was like, I'm just gonna sit with this trauma for
Yeah.
1 second.
Or not even just the 97 thing, but like just in general, it's like this like unsaid like bar that you have to reach, and then if you don't, like it's like
right, or even just the perception that like even when things are not okay, you have to look perfect or see or push through or like not air your dirty laundry or you know
not be honest, basically.
not be honest. And
like
so that perfectionism comes out in so many different ways, and it's born, you know, it's part of our culture, like both like academically, professionally, personally, socially. Like we are constantly striving for perfectionism in every way, and as a woman even more so, right? Like we were told to dress perfectly and have these like perfectly curated healthy community and relationships and be nurturing and also run a household, but also make sure we can have these powerful careers and be multifaceted and dynamic. And it just never, there's always another thing to do or learn or be. And at some point I was just like, wait, this is actually holding me back. Like I am trying to be perfect in so many ways that I'm scared to try things because I'm not going to be perfect at them, and I'm not supposed to be. Like, I'm actually not supposed to be perfect at everything. It is okay to do things badly and poorly. It's okay to try and fail, and breaking that has been kind of the hardest thing that I've been working on for the last couple of years. I started in 2019, 2020, deciding I was going to start taking rejections and making that a part of my life. And then what that meant is,
I love that.
I just wanted to shoot my shot. I wanted to go email people and try things that were completely out of my reach and really just see what happens. And it was weird. I'm like, why are we so afraid of being rejected? That means that somehow inherently we think that we are entitled to a yes every time we ask for something. Right? Like, if I think that rejection is bad, that means I believe that every time I ask the universe or another person or someone for something, I believe I'm entitled to it. And I had to just reframe that. Actually, it's just a question. The answer could be yes or no. And no matter what happens, I'm going to be cool.
And it's just not that deep.
It's just not that deep.
That's a big thing.
It's really just not that deep. Like, whether it's a date, whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's like this like dream role you wanted to get, just like go and ask. You want to invite to a party, just like go and ask. Right? Like, I don't know. And then, like, I decided, so I did this thing called the 20 Rejection Challenge, where it was my goal to go be rejected 20 times, whether it was, again, a date. I applied to a few speaker conferences that were, you know, probably a little bit further based on what I could do. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go try it. And you'd be shocked at how many people I thought would not even give me the time of day at least responded. And then I was like, that's fine. I'll just connect with them on LinkedIn, and maybe at their next job opportunity or the next time, I will be the perfect fit for this, and we'll just stay connected. And what that did for me was, it made rejection the goal. So even when I was being rejected, I was still I was winning because that's what I wanted to do. And on the off chance that they didn't reject me, I got something that I never thought I could do. So either way, you're winning. And it turned out that it was harder to get rejections than I thought.
Period.
So,
well, no, because it wasn't your goal. So then I
don't know. You know, so basically, shoot your shot. And rejection's not that bad. So that really, really reframed how I felt about rejection. And now I'm kind of trying to do the same thing with failure, where I'm just like, now I'm cool with trying things, but when I try something and it doesn't go well, or I'm not good at it right away, or ever, I'm so ashamed, or I feel really guilty, or I feel like I have to hide it, or like not share it with people. And I'm just like, wait, actually, like or sometimes I keep trying things that I'm really, really bad at because I'm like, I'm not allowed to fail.
The not allowed to part.
And I'm like, wait, I can just like be bad at something, fail at it, and like fail forward and like learn and move on to the next thing. Right? So it's really about just being like allowing myself to fail, taking the learnings from it and moving on to the next thing. And I think that's so important as an entrepreneur, as a creator, like
as a leader,
is accepting when you failed and just learning from it instead of sitting with it.
Just moving on.
Moving on.
Because like we said, it's just not that deep. And truly, like, I think it's so important to just like be able to do something and fail at it and fail at it fast. And then if you feel like, okay, like I really want to do this, just keep doing it. And I think that like to be like really good at something, for example, like as entrepreneurs, like I think you're not going to be good at it right away, you know? And it's like you have to keep trying and going at it. And I think stuff like that needs to be like more talked about and more normalized. Because I think there's so much hype around, like, especially on social media now, like, oh my God, like, ditch 9 to 5, be an entrepreneur. And they think it happens like, oh, you wake up, entrepreneur, and then you're making like $100,000 a month. And it's like, that, girl, like, that is not how it works.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice, right? It comes with like being okay with like being horrible at it, being
Right.
okay with being rejected, or someone telling you like you're not gonna make it, you can't do this, and you're like, you know what, you're wrong, and I'm gonna keep doing it, you know?
Right. Honestly, being an entrepreneur is like being rejected, being okay being rejected a million times and still hoping that someone might say yes to you once.
Real.
But this also like applies to those 9 to 5s, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many times have you stayed in a job that you were unhappy with because you thought it would look bad to move too quickly? But like, why is it looked down upon to look for the right position for you?
Yeah, or like just like not do like reject a job even though it pays really well and it's like good on paper, but it's like it's not fulfilling, you know?
Right. Like, I just think that we need to be okay with failing across the board and just reframe what that means for us. We're just moving on to the next good thing.
Yeah, like one closed door is another open one. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And I think another point too, like along the lines of perfectionism and failure, is that like whether you're doing a 9 to 5 or corporate or just like I think it comes to hobbies too. I think like a big thing, I don't know if this is a South Asian thing or just a perfectionist thing in general, but I think like there's been times like when I feel like when I wasn't good at a hobby, I was like, I have to be good at this or else like what's gonna happen, right? It's like I can't just do something because it makes me happy and like be and just do that. Like that's like apparently like not okay. And then I have to kind of tell myself like no, like, but it is okay. Like, it's if it makes you happy, like, why is it? You don't need to be doing something that always like produces something for capitalism, like, right? Like, why? What about just being happy? You know?
Right. Y'all, my goal this summer is to like play pickleball, and I'm like, wait, do I need to like take lessons and like be part of a league? And I've just been making myself anxious for 6 months. I'm just like gonna go on the court and hit a ball. Like,
Pickleball is so fun. You learn easily. I'm so bad at it, but it's like
yeah,
whatever.
I just want to go have fun. Like, I can't believe that I'm turning something fun into me being anxious about how to learn how to play pickleball. Like, I just need to go play. But we do this all the time about everything. So imagine how bad it is when this is what I'm like when it's something fun and then I have to like apply this to my work, which is actually like a significant part of my life.
Yeah, and money related.
And money related, right? But I think just like then forcing myself, like when I'm like, oh, like should I sign up for classes? I'm just like, no, I'm like literally just gonna book a court and like ask 3 friends to come with me, and like I just do it. I really
And you learn the fastest that way, low key. Like I think no matter like courses can help, but at the end of the day, just doing it. It's like an MBA versus starting a business.
Right.
What's gonna help you learn more? Like reading a textbook or just starting it and going out there.
Right. And everyone has their own way, especially like if it's something fun, we just need to be fine.
Yeah.
And being okay being embarrassed for a few
Yeah.
minutes and being cringe or whatever. Like, I just want to let go of that feeling because I don't think it's real.
Yeah, it's not real. Especially like the wait, what were you gonna say?
No.
I was just gonna say like especially the cringe part and like that like induced shame almost. Like I feel like when we're born as babies, like no one like you're not supposed to feel cringe, you're not supposed to feel shame, but I feel like it's like a learned thing almost. And I think that cringe, like I've been kind of like reframing my mindset as like through therapy and just like working on myself a lot to like feel like cringe is not real. It's just what you think is cringe. So if you're so like sometimes like I'm trying to grow my Instagram right now to talk more about like my company, my podcast, everything, and just like my consulting work. And like sometimes I'm like, this is so cringe. Like I feel like I sound like one of those people, and I'm like, what's one of those people though? Like what does that mean? Like right? Like they're out here making bank, and I'm here worried about like whether it's gonna be cringe. So who's really winning in life, me or them? Right?
Totally. One of the hardest realizations I've ever had was the fear of being cringe or putting myself out there, or this idea of perfectionism was holding me back. Like, someone who didn't have this, I've had an idea, right? And someone who probably didn't think of it as early as I did, or may not be as good at executing as me, is doing it because they are not afraid to put themselves out there.
Don't care.
And they don't care, or they have the confidence to push through that. And they're living the dream that I wanted, or I could have been living. And watching that, I'm like, you know what? That is the motivation I needed to put myself out there. And I'm proud of them. And I'm so supportive of anyone who could do that. And I want to do the same thing.
I love that. And you know what? I think that also increases your surface area of success because I think just a simple act, and I got this from a post I saw literally like this morning. It was like I think her name is Avni, and she posted about like how she went to engineering school and then she pivoted from that and software engineering to product management to raising money for business to not doing that, just like all over the place. But she's like thriving right now. She has a newsletter like, and she posted this series about like I think it's like 90 days of tips from Silicon Valley founders that like not many people know about. And one of the things she said was like posting every single day and just like talking about your goals and what you want to do online is like the biggest way to like actually get yourself to like fully do it because like most people like are too scared to do that. And like I've been there before too. I'm not saying this to, like put anyone down. Like it happens. It's only human. But I think when you keep like talking about it and then you post about it, it's like you don't realize it. Like we're on social media, like anyone can see it. That recruiter could see it. That new client could see it. You have no idea. And just because like something is maybe not getting the most interaction or engagement on one day doesn't mean you should stop or like it's like shameful or cringe because you're not like up there. And like what she said was like when she wanted to get a job in software engineering, she was like, I hadn't even written my first line of code and I posted about what I wanted to do. And it was like me just posting that. I'm like, now I have to do it. And it's not cringe. It's like maybe like if someone does think it's cringe, it's like, well, I don't want to be working with them anyways. And like no one who's like really going to be providing you these opportunities or giving you like a leveling up in a specific career area is going to think that's cringe, like,
right? And well, first of all, speaking of, since you have just spoken this out into the world, we will be holding you accountable on posting more about all the things and the incredible things you're doing.
Yes.
So we're going to check back in with you as accountability partners. But yes, I think you're exactly right. Like once you talk more about what your goals are and what you're building and what your dreams are, you're going to find the community that wants to build that with you
and support you.
And support you. And I think that is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to speak your dreams out loud and make them real. That's the thing that we're so scared of because it's like, what if we fail? But let yourself fail and let yourself believe in your dream. Like,
and be open about the failures.
Be open about the failures and then grow from them with your tribe, with that same community that you built that dream with. Be open about it and build the next dream.
Yeah. And I think people would be surprised, like, how supportive people, like, online are just, like, when you talk to, like, whenever I go to any networking, when I talk about what I'm doing, even if it's, like, a failure or something I learned, it's, like, people are so supportive, and I'm sure you've experienced similar things.
I am recently, have been really redefining my idea of what success looks like.
Yeah.
And it used to be around materialistic things or making money or, achieving a certain level of success in my career.
Yeah.
And I got to those, I hit some of those goals and I was like, okay, but like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
And so then I looked back and I was like, what I really want is to build a life where I feel safe taking risks.
Period.
So whatever I need to do, whether it is to build that like emergency savings fund or a fuck you fund, whatever it may be, that's what it is. Whatever.
I love that. No, I love
that's what I called it. I was ready to quit my toxic workplace. I was like, this is my fuck you fund. I'm putting all my money in it. But really building this life where I'm like, whatever risk I have to take and want to take, I want it to feel safe. I want to be able to take a risk. And that means building a community of people that I know are going to support me no matter what. That means being open and vulnerable with my parents and being like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I really want your support. That means building the financial security for myself. That means networking professionally. There's a lot of things that you can do to make yourself feel safe. But for me, now success looks like really building a life where I feel comfortable taking risks.
Yeah. And I think that's important, right? Because, like, I feel like life is super dynamic, and being able to have, like, a versatile, like, career or just, like, situation that you've created for yourself is so important. Like, I totally get that because, like, you should be able to, like, go on, like, not on a whim, I guess that's not the word, but you should be able to feel comfortable, like you said, just being able to do something you want to do. Like, say, like, you're like, I want to start, like, another company. Like, that is, like, I guess, like, risky, but, like, now that you created this for yourself, I feel like you could have, like, the space to be able to do that, right? And I think, like, that's awesome, because I think that, like, it just, again, expands your surface area for success in the ways that make sense for you. And I think another question or not another question, but a follow-up question I have based on everything we talked about so far is, like, for you, like, how did you let go of the idea of, like, pleasing others? I think, like, we talked about perfectionism and everything, and, like, a big expectation, whether it's unsaid or directly said from, like, brown girls or just, like, just women in general, right? Like, growing up, like, how did you let go of just, like, pleasing others when it came to their idea of success versus your idea of success, right? Because there's a lot of, like, unsaid pressure about that, I feel like.
The short answer to that is the very, very hard way. And that means that I decided that I was going to redefine what life looks like for me. And people weren't always really accepting of that. And so, and even when I was doing everything right, according to their rules, they still weren't always accepting of me. People were going to say things no matter what. And
I get that, yeah.
so I accepted that. I used that as my motivation. I was like, I love my friends. But sadly, they're not my motivators. They're really just my support. They tell me I'm the best no matter what I'm doing. And I love that for me. But it is the people that didn't believe in me that truly, truly motivated me to go and do better because I had someone to prove wrong.
Yeah.
And so I use that as my motivation. But what was, I think, a full circle moment was all of those people that didn't believe in me coming back and being like, oh, wow, we see the vision now. We see what you've built. And when that moment happened, I promised myself that I was never going to let what people think hold me back again. And because sometimes you're the only person that sees the vision, and that's fine. If you believe in it, you have to believe in it and find the other people around you that will, and everyone else will get on board when they can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, like, proving them wrong kind of thing. That's, like, a big example of, like, turning, like, quote unquote, like, pain into ammunition to, like, build your success.
Yeah, and honestly, some of those people that maybe didn't believe in me at first are now some of my loudest supporters, and I'm grateful for that, right? Like, I'm not holding anything against them. I'm like, wow, this is a testament to how far I've come.
Yeah.
And it's okay for people who have never been exposed to the things that you're thinking to maybe not believe in it because they just don't know. And that's true. That's not
about you.
It's not personal.
Yeah.
And I've seen it.
Sorry, guys, about that. The camera died, so we're gonna restart from where we were at. What were you saying? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay,
we had a whole conversation in between. I just like forget.
No, yeah, we really did. We talked about a bunch of things. But I mean, I guess what we were talking about could be a good thing to talk about. Just, like, tuning out noise and even, like, parental expectations when it comes to pursuing your own path. Like, well, what's that been like for you? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah. I think it took a little bit of convincing at first, but also I was working in digital marketing full time, because I was doing digital comms, like I mentioned, for so many big nonprofits, and
like as a 9 to 5 or like
as my 9 to 5, and then a lot of them converted into my clients when I launched my agency. So I had, like a viable, secure career path, which I was doing really, really well in. So I think my parents had that a little bit of security, knowing that I could always hop back to corporate.
Yeah.
And knowing that I like genuinely loved it, but like was just burnt out. So they were like, okay, like, there is always a backup. So I think that really helped. But in general, like, I think my parents just seeing the wins and me being honest with them, being like, hey, I'm doing something really scary, and what I need right now is for you to support me. And this is how you can show up. And I know you're worried. I hear you, but like, this is my plan if it doesn't work out. And just like being really honest, and just giving them the security that there was a plan. I wasn't just like,
why you like that?
Yeah. And like, sometimes I think that like, maybe I don't get it, or like maybe I won't know how difficult something is. But acknowledging their fears and saying, hey, I have accounted for this, and I do kind of have a plan, and this is what's going to happen next. I really do think makes it possible for them to meet you in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think, yeah, just being transparent about it. Because at the end of the day, I feel like parents, regardless of what their background is, they just want you to be like safe and secure. Like that's like the main concern. Like I think my parents have had that concern too. So I think just that like open communication about like, hey, like I have something to fall back on, and also just like it's not the end of the world, but like saying that in a way that reaches them. Because I think the way that we're talking about it, it might not be like the most. I guess the best way to say it to someone who hasn't been exposed to the world that we live in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also really had to talk to my mom, right? My mom is also really successful, but she's worked at the same company her almost her whole life, like since I was
Yeah.
6 years old, and she's killing it. But for me, that wasn't viable. Like you put leave a lot of money on the table when you don't look for new jobs. Like, and I had to really show her that, like the research for it too. Sometimes it's like, taking a lot of conversations and a lot of different avenues to really show them like that things aren't the same or this is why I'm doing things. But just like really having that conversation about like this is thought out and like I've done my research and I will figure it out. Uh, has been amazing. And I think one of the best conversations I've ever had with my parents was when they said, you know what, actually, we're not worried you're going to figure it out. I was like, that's beautiful because now I can start over and I know I'm not worried about them and how they feel about it when I do.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's so important. Again, just like acknowledging that there's a change and there's that gap and kind of like meeting in the middle for that. Because I think, like you said, like there's research back about this and like the things that you're doing too are not like unprecedented either. You're not like inventing the next light bulb or something where it's like, oh my God, like super risque. It's like having a marketing agency is very, very doable. And there's like a lot of research behind it. And I think again, like you worked in digital marketing before, so it's like kind of transferable in terms of like the clients and stuff like that. What was something that helped you out in like making the transition on yourself, like outside of any other external noise and what someone else would think? What was something that helped you?
I think I really wanted to build a flexible life for myself. I love travel.
Move a little bit this way, just because like I'm okay. That's perfect.
Is that better?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think what really helped me and what I really focused on was this idea of building a flexible life for myself, and one that allows me to like travel and live where I want to. My family's from India, and now I spend my winters there. But also having the opportunity and just a way to do all the creative things I wanted to. And something we've talked about is like pivoting. I honestly believe as a creative person, I'm going to have 50 different careers in my lifetime. And there's going to be so many different projects and things I want to do. And I love that. Like, I love that I don't know what every day looks like. I love that I get to like think of something in my brain one day and go find people that would want to do it with me and like make it come to life.
Yeah.
And that was the reason that I launched this agency. I was like, wait, like once I, figure out the business model of it and have something that's recurring and my bread and butter is set up, which like we're finally there. I think I get to go chase whatever I want and like build and believe and really create my crazy ideas. And that's what I'm most looking forward to. And just like build it, like keeping that end goal in mind, or the thing that really, really makes you happy, I think is the best thing.
I love that. Period. Okay, so we are coming to a close on this episode, guys. We have so many insightful fun facts and just like tips that she's given us. So, what is the one last thing that you want to leave our audience off with, and something that you wish that you knew before when you started all this, or just you knew before? Period.
Honestly, have fun. Like work, yes, it's supposed to sustain you, but it's also supposed to be enjoyable. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that you need to work in situations that you're not happy in. I don't think you need to be in relationships or any situation that you're not happy with. Move. If you are not happy where you are, go figure out the next thing.
I love that. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on here, Ashni.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
Yeah, I had fun too. And for our audience, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And come back next Friday at 8 a.m. EST for the next episode of Brown Girl Unscripted. That's wraps. Bye.